Hey gang, this is Deltia from deltiasgaming.com here with the SWTOR PvP Juggernaut Guardian Guide for patch 2.6. Juggernauts are one of the better classes in the game. It's a melee class. All three trees are really potent. The left tree is a tank, middle is a single target damage tree, and the right is the AoE damage. Juggernauts are great because they have great burst DPS. They have high mobility with leaps, force leap, and intercede. So you have a friendly and enemy leap. They can seamlessly transition between tank and DPS, swapping stances, throwing a guard on someone as needed, and then going back to DPS when they feel everyone's up. They also have a lot of utility with taunts, stuns, leaps, slows. They can knock people back, they can jump to them, immobilize them. So there's a lot of utility with the class that people don't use a lot. Some of the limits of the class are their defensive cooldowns are really tricky to master. They don't have AoE damage reduction built into their tree, so they're somewhat more squishy even as a heavy armor class, and you just have to know where to position yourself on the battlefield to take full use of that. And they don't have that many stuns. The stuns they do have can be very good, but they're not as stun heavy as a Sin class or something like that. But all in all, it's one of my favorite classes to play. It's really fast moving. It just looks great. It's a lot of fun. And it's great in arenas. It really is. You just gotta know how to use it, and hopefully this guy will show you a lot of the tips and tricks that I use, gear, rotation, spec. So let's get after it. Alright, here's some of the specs that I run currently. I've played a lot of the three trees, a great deal. But when it comes to competitive arenas, really the Vengeance tree is probably your best for DPS. The reason why it has the best damage mitigation, CC immunity, and great utility. Rage has a lot of big numbers and burst, but without AoE reduction, it's just really squishy to play, so I don't use it too much. Another reason Vengeance is great for solos is you can swap between your stances and play tank if needed. If you have an off healer, throw on some tank gear and you're good to go. And it doesn't really suffer that bad. You can still do a lot of your utility and save another teammate, so it's really good for that. Now, the reason I play 442, it's probably your standard build. I like a little bit of accuracy because for a lot of our damage is wider weapon damage, and it's hard to hit a lot of targets when you don't have at least 95% accuracy. The other things are pretty much standard. I don't take the mobilization talent because I'm using Ravage as soon as I leap in anyways, almost all the time. So they're going to be routed through that anyways. So it doesn't make sense to me to have two talents in something that I'm going to use otherwise. The other thing is in the Rage tree, I don't take the Force Critical just because a lot of the damage from this talent tree is white damage. It's not dot damage or critical hits or on big ravages, and that's white damage. So you don't really benefit a whole lot from having extra critical. I'd rather have some extra utility in the middle tree. I do take the 2 points for smash because if I crit on a smash, it's 4k on one target. So if there's 3 or more targets around, I'm going to smash a lot. It still does quite a bit of damage actually, even though we're not playing the full spec. So I do like to take that. The next spec that I play heavily is a 23-23-0 build. You're listed as a DPS, that's your big advantage here. You're not going to do a whole lot of damage, but it's really tanky and you have a lot of utility. The only time I really use is if I know a lot of off healers are playing, like Sorks or Mercs that can heal, and they just need someone to tank for them and keep them alive and wear down the other enemy. Like I said, if I know a lot of strong DPS are queuing, I'm not going to play the spec because I just can't do that much damage. It's more of just utility, stay alive type of thing. But it is a really good spec. The other spec is just your standard 36-10-0 build. That's usually, I only play that for 4-man rated if they need a tank, because otherwise it's just, you're not going to get very many solo Q pops playing full tank just because there's not that many people that play full tank. So I'd rather focus on my DPS, and I feel like I can control the battlefield a lot better playing DPS. Then the other spec that I rarely play is the Rage one. Yes, it has a lot of burst. Yes, it's great and everything, and you do 10k damage, but it's just not as reliable as the Vengeance tree. Plus, you don't have CC immunity. Your cooldowns are not as nearly as effective. You don't have the reduced cooldown on your Intimidating Roar, which you can win or lose games. So for me, it's not really worth taking. I mean, half the time I leap in there, I'm stunned and I'm dead. So I'd rather have Vengeance where I jump in, use all my cooldowns, and I can just rain terror for a little bit of time. So those are my specs. If you have anything else to add, let me know. I'd like to see what you guys are running. So let's get into the how to gear my character, or what I use for gear next. As far as gear goes, I go to this little handy site called SWTOR Mr. Robot. It has a list of all my characters here. I got plenty of them. It's a great site that allows you to keep track of your datacrons, build your character before you actually buy the parts. So I actually like to go to this website before I get started, kind of see what my end game is going to be, then go buy the parts from there. I'm going to go to Deltia here. I run 2 different builds. One build is consistent damage build that I run 75% surge, 95% accuracy, 100 points into critical, and the rest on main stat and power. I like this, and I use the relics that are critical and main stat because I like the critical advantage when I jump in to get a leap and start doing my damage, because Ravage really ticks. The last tick, that relic's going to proc, so you're going to have a really good chance to do 8-7k on your last tick of your Ravage. A lot of people don't run any crit, and that's fine too. I have my Guardian that does heavy crit, or the consistent damage build, and my Juggernaut that does the heavy burst, which all I do is don't run any crit. I use the 2 relics that have main stat and critical, or main stat and power, to try to get big hits out of the way. So that's what I do for that. You can build your skill. Now I don't have 2 points in because the thing hasn't been updated for the immobilized, but that's where the build is, and you can keep track of your datacron, so it's really handy. And you can itemize individual pieces if you want, and that saves you a lot of coin when you don't want to actually buy all the pieces beforehand. So make sure you come here and you build your whole set before you go on. I also use a 29AX, or X versus AX. And speaking of datacrons, you can go here, make sure you get all your datacrons. I haven't done the McKeb one because it's not fun. But especially main stat, strength, and willpower off stat does give you a bonus, so make sure you use that. It will add a lot over time. Go into my tank set here. I stack endurance, shield absorb, shield rating. Now I go full endurance because a lot of our abilities are based off how much endurance we have, not based off of anything else. So that med pack, if I have 40k endurance, is going to do a lot more than if I have 30k endurance. So to me, it makes sense to do that. Also, I like to have a big health pool because I'm going to be guarding, I'm going to be swapping guards. And my whole objective is to kind of soak up that stuff from the opponents. Another thing I do is I have a lot of absorb and shield rating, because that's the only stat that you can basically absorb damage from your guarded target too. So hypothetically, if you're guarding, you have a lot of shield and absorb, you're taking away a lot of damage from the enemy because they just don't have anything to counter that. So make sure you're doing that. So endurance, shield, absorb, and then shield rating, and then I throw the rest into defense just because I like to miss the hits. Though defense isn't that good of a stat at the moment, so you could even swap out the enhancements for more absorb and shield rating. But like I said, that's what I use, so you can have as many builds as you want pretty much in this, and it's really useful, so I highly recommend it. 40k health, about 10k armor, that's a pretty good tank build. Alright, here's a combo, we're just playing Vigilance, DPS, and I got a healer follow me. We're going to the off node here, and this is going to kind of highlight how you can switch stances and still be effective as a tank / DPS and Vengeance. So we come here, Sork trying to line of sight me. He's doing a good job, so I'm sitting on him. Now a couple of his buddies came, he broke the stun. I'm not going to go chase him just because it's going to waste DPS me following him. So it's 2-on-2 right now. I'm just kind of messing with the Sork, trying to get his bubble broke. Taking damage, we're not really taking damage. Healer's doing a good job. Now it looks like we got a third in here, so we're going to kind of start getting some pressure here now. So I AoE taunt to kind of mitigate some of that damage on my healer. I'm just kind of following him around. At this point, they're not really helping their team because we have more resources, so we're just going to kind of stay here. And even though it seems like it's derping, it's really not. Okay, right now he's getting in trouble. Guard, intercede, slow everyone, and I got him mezzed. So he gets caught up, full heal to full, I hit someone. Now I'm still slowing him. Now we're almost still full health. So I'm beating on these guys. Still, I see this guy kind of beating on him, so I'm going over here, messing with him a little bit. He punts me back. I'm interceding. So I'm getting low now. So pretty soon I'm going to do my leap to full combo. So I'm at 30% health. I break the CC. Boom. 80% health right there. So that's how you can get up real fast so they can't do their finishing moves on you if they have an execute ability. So I'm still at 70% health. We're still good. 3v2 on it. And at this point, they really can't get us down. We can't get them down because they got a healer, and I can't leave my healer to go get them. And so my main job here isn't to do damage every second, but just kind of mitigate the situation. So as you can see, I jump, kind of mez him, got to get the advantage. He's still mez, so he's not really healing. Then he broke it right there, started healing again. So I'm going to come back, lob him a little friendly grenade, and go back to DPS him. And I'm still hitting decent hard. I'm not hitting real hard, but enough to keep pressure on him. 5k scream. Got him choked. My healer is mez, looks like. So I interceded back to him. Got a little glitch. And I'm just going to keep as much pressure on him as I can. He has a lot of health, so I can kind of leave him for a little bit. Now it looks like we got 5 players, so it's 5v2 here. But we're still doing good, still not taking too much damage. So I'm interceding, using my cooldowns. Got my saber ward off. AoE taunt. And we're staying up for quite a bit of time here, even with these guys doing some damage to us. I think there's what, 6 now? Oh, 5 still. Either way, that's pretty much what you can do. That's kind of what the rest of the map is. So don't feel like you can still do a lot, even tanking. It's just what the situation dictates, and that's why Vengeance is my favorite. Leap here. I'm playing a Civil War, the same type of Civil War. Jumping in here, so my main thing is to get my force up, use my defensive ability, my adrenal, leap in, and sit on this guy. And I was getting frustrated right away, so I'm using my abilities on him. Stuns me, that's fine. He hasn't done any damage to me yet. Jump on him. Now he broke that CC right there, so I stun him. Now he's out of the fight for 8 seconds. So I come back to my healer, use some taunts, then just get on this guy. Right, for DPS priorities, it's more of a priority, not since rotation, since in PvP nothing's really perfect. Hypothetically, you want to start off with a saber throw, leap in, ravage. That's your basic standard move. If your thing procs your dispatch, use it. Get those 2 stacks up, and then automatically use your blade storm like I'm doing here. I start off with not impale but shatter, just because I like the long dot, and I'm trying to keep up all those dots, keeping up the armor penetration. Sometimes I jump back to get some space, and I use my blade storm without having the 2 stacks. The reason is it gives you some percentage to get a crit anyways, so I'm just rather using it than doing nothing. So I'm just kind of using that, seeing what's off cooldown, making sure I'm using my blade storm when it has the 2 stacks up, and I'm using ravage once it's off cooldown here. And it's basically this kind of format, so you're just really prioritizing between what's up. It's not such that you do this over and over and over and you get this, because like I said, that dispatch came up, used impale there instead of shatter, since that was up and the other one wasn't, then ravage, and you're kind of just doing this over and over and over. The best idea is try to keep the 3 dots up as best as you can. It's not going to be perfect, but you can get them all up at one time like I'm trying to do right now. See, those 3 dots are ticking. Then I sit in a ravage and that person's going to die, especially with no armor. And you know, your main thing is your Ravage, your Dispatch, or your Vicious Throw is your #1 priority, and then a Blade Storm since it is an automatic crit. And then I go between Shatter and Impale over and over and over. I do throw a Smash in here and there just because it's free rage and it can crit for up to 4k with my current build, so it's not a bad ability to use. But I'm just kind of going back and forth, and then I do for some general arena strategies, I just try to know what I'm going against and what I am or what I have. So for instance, starting out an arena, you really got to play every class, kind of know what they are. You don't have to play them for 100 hours, but you should know how a Merc works, how a Sorc works, how a Smasher works, and whatnot. That's really going to help you. So you start the match and you kind of look around to see what your teammate have. Are they strong melee? Are they strong range? How should you play the map? Once I got a kind of a simple understanding of what's around me, then I know how can I be effective. How can I be effective, which is not take damage. Do as much damage as I can without taking damage. Well, what does that mean? Usually I try to find someone isolated off on their own, like a Sorc or a Merc, just casting and shut them down. I jump on them, try to stun them, and just do things over and over and over, making their life hell. And that way they're running and not doing damage, not healing. They're just spending their time trying to survive versus actually being functional. Another thing is I'm trying to do whatever the situation calls for. So if the tank goes down, I'm swapping guards. I'm putting my tank gear on if the match didn't work out the way I wanted it. I'm slowing and stunning, knockbacking everyone as best I can just to kind of be a menace to everyone. And get up in there. Don't be afraid to start off the fight. Start off the fight, use your cooldowns, put the pressure on the other team, and then let them react instead of you. That's really important. I can't stress that enough. But generally, you're just going to have to play a lot and kind of get used to it. But after a bunch of times, you're going to get better. You will. So stick with it, and I hope this guide has helped you a lot. For more information, you can visit deltiasgaming.com or follow me on Twitter on deltiasgaming.